Welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
It's the Rock Newman Show.
Each time he goes out, and it's from a creativity standpoint. You know, he thinks like a businessman, and he also happens to be the best fighter in the world. So what we've been able to do is take a business model that we put together, and it's made it work for us. What essentially what we've done is we've cut out the middleman. You know, we formed our own company, Mayweather Promotions, in 2007, and when he became his boss,
Could there be a more appropriate song as we enter into this hour? I'm Rock Newman. This is the Rock Newman Show. You're listening to 1480 WPWC We Act Radio. Today, Saturday, April the 27th. It is another spectacular Saturday morning here in Washington, D.C. on Martin Luther King Avenue. I want to give out the number once again. You know what? We're not taking any calls in the first hour, so y'all just going to have to hold on. But I'll give you the number, but hold it up for the second hour. The telephone number is 202-889-9797. Let me say to you, ladies and gentlemen in the studio, those listening on 1480 AM, viewers watching the program around the world at www.rocknewmanshow.com. I want to make a statement before I introduce my next guest. I'm going to start with an eulogy that was delivered by Ossie Davis at the funeral of Malcolm X on February the 27th, 1965, at the Faith Temple Church of God. Here, at this final hour, in this quiet place, Harlem has come to bid farewell to one of its brightest hopes, extinguished now and gone from us forever. For Harlem is where he worked and where he struggled and fought, his home of homes, where his heart was and where his people are. And it is therefore most fitting that we meet once again in Harlem to share these last moments with him. For Harlem has ever been gracious to those who have loved her, have fought for her, have defended her honor, even to the death. It is not in the memory of man that this beleaguered, unfortunate, but nonetheless proud community has found a braver, more gallant young champion than this Afro-American who lies before us, uncompromised still. I say the word again as he would want me to. Afro-American. Afro-American. Malcolm was a master, was most meticulous in his use of words. Nobody knew better than he the power words have over the minds of men and women. Malcolm had stopped being a Negro years ago. It had become too small. It had become too puny, too weak a word for him. Malcolm was bigger than that. Malcolm had become an Afro-American, and he wanted so desperately that all his people would become Afro-Americans too. There are those who will consider it their duty as friends of the Negro people to tell us to revile him, to flee, even from the presence of his memory, to save ourselves by writing him out of the history of our turbulent times. Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this stormy, controversial, bold young captain, and we will smile. Many will say, turn away from this man, for he is not a man but a demon, a monster, a subverter, and an enemy of the black man, and we will smile. They will say that he is of hate, a fanatic, a racist, who can only bring evil to the cause for which you struggle. And we will answer and say unto them, did you ever talk to Brother Malcolm? Did you ever touch him or have him smile at you? Did you ever really listen to him? Did he ever do a mean thing? Was he ever himself associated with violence or any public disturbance? For if you did, you would know him. And if you knew him, you would know why we must honor him. Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. However we may have differed with him or with each other about him and his value as a man, let his going from us now serve only to bring us together now. Consigning these mortal remains to earth, the common mother of all, secure in the knowledge that what we place in the ground is no more now a man, but a seed, which after the winter of our discontent will come forth again to meet us. And we will know him then for what he was and is, a prince, our own black shining prince, who didn't hesitate to die because he loved us so. The end of the eulogy. Minister Louis Farrakhan is someone I personally have watched closely since my days as a student and later as a counselor at Howard University in the 1970s. I have seen him inspire reverence, love, respect, admiration, and adulation. I've seen his words provoke expressions of anger, denunciation, scorn, venomous hostility, hatred, and rebuke. I want to ask the question, how is it? What is it about him that could prompt over 1 million black men to converge on the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., in singularly the largest crowd of people ever assembled at a rally in the history of the United States? What is it about him that caused the U.S. government to intentionally lie and say that there were only 400,000 participants on the mall that October the 16th, 2005 day? What is it about him that still makes many view him as a hateful, anti-white, anti-Semitic bigot? Is it something about him that makes us love him so? Is it something about him that makes us hate him? Is it something about, or do we see and love the best of ourselves in him? Or do we see things in him that we hate most about ourselves and hate him for it? He is now nearly 80 years old. May the 11th, 2013, Minister Farrakhan will celebrate his 80th birthday, God willing. Why has the mainstream media attempted to ignore him while salivating at the utterings of less astute, sometimes buffoonish black leaders? Why is he still the most vilified black man in America? Why does he remain as a litmus test for those running for political office? Barack Hussein Obama could not have become president of the United States of America if he had not denounced Farrakhan. What's going on here? Has he murdered? Has he rioted? Has he robbed or raped or sexually abused? Has he stolen from the elderly? Has he started wars and plundered billions from the U.S. economy? Has he advocated or practiced violence against the U.S. government or any of its citizens? Or is his pulsating message to black America to clean itself up and to become a self-reliant, self-sufficient community a more feared message and crime than any of the aforementioned transgressions. I have said to some that Minister Louis Farrakhan believes in a very radical concept. That's my observation. He has waged war against evil and oppressive forces to advance that truly radical concept. He's been loved and hated for the weapons, words, and deeds used in his effort to bring about that radical, militant concept called equality. Frederick Douglass was indeed right when he said, "Power concedes nothing without a struggle, never has and never will." As a sports fan and a bit of a history fan, I'd like to remind black and white alike, at one time most of you hated, rebuked, and denounced Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali. You hated Paul Robeson, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X. Now I ask one and all to reflect and ask yourself why you hated those individuals. And I would suggest you probably don't have a reasonable answer. I would submit that true introspection would perhaps cause you to feel humiliated and embarrassed for allowing your lower self, your fear, your bias, your bigotry, and prejudice to rule your best self. We must be better. Do I think Louis Farrakhan is a sinless, perfect man? Of course not. Do I think that he might have chosen some words and phrases at times that were inflammatory? Sure. Might I disagree with him on some social policies? Certainly, I may, as well as we all have a right to do. None of the foregoing, however, explains the ruthless, deceitful attempts to demonize him by those who have been offended by the harsh truth he often speaks. I have heard him speak eloquently, passionately, for 3 hours, criticizing and urging and encouraging his mostly black audience to do for self, to stop drinking, drugging, to establish a better work ethic, get better educated, treat women better, respect the elderly, teach their children discipline, and to love and respect the divine force of our choice. Doing such 3-hour discourse, mostly spent taking black Americans to task while attempting to inspire their rise, he may have taken 10 or 15 minutes pointing out the sins, failures, and foibles of government, white America, or some of those in the Jewish community. The following day's headlines would read, "Farrakhan hates whites and Jews." His message of self-love and self-help and honor and respect for all who would be totally ignored. I ask you why. If a man is judged by his deeds, can we deny that he and the organization he leads, the Nation of Islam, have been shining examples of cleaning up tens of thousands through the years? Please listen. They have helped lift junkies and prostitutes and pimps and drug dealers and violent thugs from our streets. They have helped our communities become a safer place to live, not by using guns or deadly force weaponry, but by an upright example of moral authority. I read Ossie Davis's searing Malcolm X eulogy as a reminder of our propensity for hardened judgment for those still amongst us and our more compassionate, reasonable consideration when they're gone. Let us follow that little boy who was recently murdered in Boston. Let us follow him and his silent, eloquent plea held up on a chalkboard. It said, "Stop hurting people, peace. Stop hurting people, peace." The core belief coming from this voice you now hear is rooted in a firm belief that we are one, from many tribes and destinations, but still we are one. I am a Pisces, And it's been said we're prone to daydream, to fantasize, and on that count, I'm guilty as charged. Yes, I fantasize of the day when black and white, gay and straight, man and woman, Muslim and Jew, rich and poor, conservative and progressive, can look each other in the eye and see the divine humanity of our higher selves. In spite of our many differences of color, ethnicity, education, religion, country, or gender, we are one. I plan to spend the rest of my days doing what I can to speak a healing truth that might bring us a little closer to each other so that we might better know, understand, and appreciate each other, and to find the mutual love and respect that illuminates the reality that indeed says we are one. So I ask one and all to listen to today with an open mind and, more importantly, with an open heart. Let us all work to heal the wounds of our vastly fractured world. Minister Louis Farrakhan, welcome to the Rock Newman Show.
What a marvelous way to open our dialogue today. I don't think we could have had a better opening to set the proper stage for proper and righteous dialogue. I am grateful to Almighty God for our brother Rock Newman, for his show, for his marvelous character, for this building in which we are engaged in dialogue, and the community in which this building has this radio station. I pray that the words that come from our lips and the meditation of our hearts will be acceptable not only to our listeners and watchers, but acceptable to God Himself, who is the author of all truth and the source of all goodness. Thank you so much for the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure to be your guest this morning.
It's the Rock Newman Show.